Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a 7th century king, a guy who was known by two pretty epic titles, the Great Wrestler and also a legendary conqueror. He was this amazing paradox, all about brute force, but also about creating some of the most delicate art you can imagine.
So that brings us to the big question, right? How did a warrior so feared? I mean, this guy was one of the few Indian monarchs who apparently never lost a single battle. How did he also become the visionary behind a city filled with timeless, just serene art? It's this clash of brutal revenge and breathtaking creation that defined his entire reign, and that's what we're going to unpack.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with who he was, the great wrestler king, then get into the backstory of his father's humiliation. After that, we'll see how he got his revenge in the conquest of Vatapi, and then shift to his legacy in stone. We'll also look beyond the battlefield and wrap it all up with his 5-point legacy. It's quite a journey.
Okay, so let's start with the man himself, Narasimhavarman I. He was the king of the Pallava dynasty, ruling from 630 to 668 CE. Now, what's interesting is he totally inherited his father's love for art, but he also had this fierce, almost relentless military ambition that was all his own.
And he wasn't just ambitious. He was good. His skill in combat was so well known that he earned the title Mamallan, which basically means the great wrestler. And that name is super important because it's the name he'd later give to his greatest creation, the port city of Mamallapuram.
But okay, to really get why he was such a conqueror, you've got to understand what was driving him. And it all goes back to a deep, really personal wound, a major blow to his family's pride.
So every dynasty has that one rival, right? For the Pallavas, it was the Chalukyas. During his father Mahendravarman's time on the throne, the Chalukyan emperor, a guy named Pulakesin II, basically marched right into their territory. He seized Pallava lands and handed them a really humiliating defeat. Now, he didn't manage to capture their capital, Kanchipuram, but the damage was done. It was a huge blow to their honor.
You can just imagine what that felt like. So from the moment Narasimhavarman took the throne, this wasn't just about being a king. He inherited a mission. He was absolutely laser-focused on one thing, getting revenge on Pulakesin and restoring his family's name.
So, fast forward a few years, Pulakesin II, well, he decides to push his luck. He invades the Pallava kingdom again, this time aiming right for the capital. Big mistake. He basically just poked a wounded tiger, and that tiger was ready to pounce.
And pounce he did. Narasimhavarman didn't just play defense. No way. He met the Chalukyas and defeated them in 3 straight battles. One of the key ones was at a place called Manimangalaam. And then he didn't just let them run home. He and his general, Parinjoti, went on the offensive. They chased the Chalukyan army all the way back to their capital, Vatapi. And in 642 CE, they didn't just knock on the door, they kicked it down, conquered the city, and Pulakesin II was killed in the fight. The tables had completely turned.
I mean, think about how huge this was. The victory was so crushing, so total, that the city of Vatapi never recovered enough to be a capital again. And for this incredible feat, Narasimhavarman earned himself a new title, Vatapikondan, which means, you guessed it, the Conqueror of Vatapi.
And he wanted to make sure nobody ever forgot it. He had an inscription carved right onto a temple wall in the middle of Vatapi itself. It was the ultimate power move, a permanent reminder of his victory right in the heart of his enemy's territory.
Okay, so the revenge part of our story is complete. And this is where things take a really fascinating turn. With his enemies defeated and his father's honor restored, Narasimhavarman completely shifts gears. He goes from a man of war and destruction to a man of art and creation. He founded the incredible port city of Mamallapuram, named, of course, after his title, Mamallan. And this place, which we now know as Mahabalipuram, wasn't just some new town. It was destined to become his masterpiece, a canvas for his architectural dreams, and today it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
And his vision was just breathtaking. We're talking about monumental works like the Pancharathas. These are 5 temples, each one carved out of a single giant piece of rock. Then there's the incredible Arjuna's Penance, this huge open-air carving that tells a whole epic story. He also continued and improved upon the cave temples his father had started. He even kicked off the construction of the iconic shore temple. This wasn't just building, this was shaping the very future of Dravidian architecture.
It's so true. His 2 identities,
The warrior and the builder are literally carved into the stone of South India for all time.
But wait, there's more. His story isn't just about swinging a sword and commissioning art. He was also a really smart diplomat and, for his time, a remarkably tolerant ruler.
How do we know this? Well, we have accounts from a famous Chinese Buddhist traveler, Xuanzang, who visited the capital Kanchi during his rule. And what did he see? He wrote about seeing over 100 Buddhist monasteries, all thriving. 100! That tells you a lot about the kind of kingdom Narasimhavarman was running. So when you pull back, you see a much fuller picture. He was a devout Hindu, a Shaivite, but he clearly had no problem with Buddhism and Jainism flourishing. His capital, Kanchi, was a major hub for education. And get this, he even projected his power overseas. He sent his navy to Sri Lanka twice to help a prince named Manavarman get his throne back. This guy was expanding Pallava influence not just on land, but across the sea.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground, so let's boil it all down. What are the key takeaways here? Let's try to summarize his entire reign into 5 main points.
First, he was the Avenger. He didn't just beat the Chalukyas, he crushed them, killed their king, and took their capital, completely erasing his father's humiliation. Second, he was the great builder. He founded Mamallapuram and filled it with those incredible rock-cut monuments, kicking off a golden age of art. Third, the undefeated warrior. He's one of the very few Indian kings who, it's believed, never lost a single battle. He made the Pallava Empire bigger and more secure than it had ever been. Fourth, the tolerant ruler. We know from visitors that Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism all existed peacefully under his watch. And finally, number 5, the international diplomat. He used his navy to project power and influence all the way to Sri Lanka. You put all 5 of those together, and it's crystal clear why his reign is seen as the absolute zenith of the Pallava dynasty.
So that leaves us with one final big question to think about. Was he a warrior first or an artist? Which legacy truly defines him? Was all that beautiful art just something he did on the side, funded by his conquests? Or were the conquests just a way to get the peace and resources he needed to build his true vision? You know, maybe the real answer is that you can't separate the two. Maybe the warrior and the artist were just two sides of the same incredible coin.